Lots of punching, mysterious boxes, and what I look like after a night out drinking in my 30s. Episode 3 of Dark Matter has just released and my mind is still spinning as to what's really going on. Now this video isn't a recap of the episode, rather an in-depth guide on the biggest questions and theories about the show. I've left timestamps below so you can see all the topics I'll be covering. This is a non-book spoiler video, so everything in here is pure speculation, and I encourage you to write your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. And one final note before we begin, I'll be referring to the original family Jason as Jason and the imposter work-oriented Jason as Jaye to distinguish between the two. So make sure to like and subscribe because here we go. In this episode, we get a bit more clarity as to what actually went down with the death of Daniella. Dawn, Velocity Labs' henchman under the orders of Leighton Vance, was supposed to bring both Jason and Daniella in unharmed, but when Daniella tried calling 911, she took drastic measures and shot her. According to Dr. Amanda Lucas, Dawn has a history of PTSD from her time serving in the military, which may attribute to her trigger-happy tendencies. Episode 3 introduces us to Detective Mason. She says she's trying to find Jason, but never tells Leighton why. Perhaps because Jason's the #1 suspect in the murder of Daniella. A man who had been missing for over a year suddenly reappears, attends his ex's art show, and then her body is found, or at least that's what's implied. Is that just a coincidence? Mason goes one step further, linking Jason with other missing persons at Velocity Labs, specifically Blair Kaplan. Blair was the first person to go into the box and not return. We actually don't know what became of this Blair or what reality she traveled to. However, in Jason's timeline, she's a successful lawyer and friends with Daniella. We see her briefly in episode 1 visiting Daniella's gallery. Feeling a tremendous amount of guilt for Blair's disappearance, Jaye is the second person to go into the box. Amanda Lucas tells Leighton that 4 people in total have gone missing.
We have 4 people missing. And now Daniella Vargas.
But where things get confusing is a little later in the episode, Leighton tells Jason that 3 people have gone missing.
How many were there?
3.
So which is it, 3 or 4? So far we only know of Blair, Jason, and the remainder being quote-unquote anonymous volunteers from Velocity Labs. Perhaps they made this vague to hide their identities and they may show up in future episodes. At the end of this episode, we'll see Jason and Amanda inside the box down a hallway of infinite doorways. This would suggest that there are infinite realities one can travel to. It may also answer why none of the others have come back, seeing as even if they wanted to, how would they know which door to open? This then raises the question, how did Jaye know which door to open to get him to a reality where he was still together with Daniella? Furthermore, how did he know which door to send Jason back to? Now we see Jaye enjoying the life he's taken over, bonding with his son and sparking romance with the woman he abandoned in his own timeline. This Jason doesn't seem to be too concerned with money, buying expensive wine at a fancy restaurant and telling his son Charlie he can pick whatever he wants from this store. In Jaye's original world, he's a multi-millionaire, but you can't necessarily transfer millions of dollars from one reality to another. So the big question is, does he actually have this money, or has he figured out a way to become rich? Jaye has also made a real effort to learn everything about Jason's life. He keeps notes on all his friends and we see him researching old family videos. But the most shocking discovery is that of a second son named Maximillian, Charlie's twin brother. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we've heard Max mentioned up until this point, nor anything about his existence. So what happened to Max? Did he die? Was he adopted? Does Charlie even know about him? I'm really excited to see where this goes and if we'll see different realities where we get to see Max. When Jason is shown the box, we learn a little bit more about how this thing works. In episodes 1 and 2, we learned about superposition, in which an object exists in 2 different states at the same time. This was shown through the example of Schrodinger's cat, who for a brief moment is simultaneously dead and alive. But in order for superposition to work, 2 conditions must be met. Anyone on the outside of this box cannot know what's going on in the inside. This is why nothing, including radiation and sound, cannot enter or exit these specifically designed alloy walls. The second condition is that the person inside the box cannot know what's going on either. This is where Ryan's Lavender fairy compound comes into play, that purple chemical we saw in episode 1. This shuts down the prefrontal cortex of the brain, making it impossible for the subject to be cognizant of him or herself, creating a state our characters refer to as decoherence. Essentially, this creates a scenario where no one outside or inside the box knows what's going on. The importance of this box is highlighted by Leighton. Imagine if there was a different reality that solved poverty or found a cure for cancer. They could bring that knowledge back to their own world. In his mind, this justifies the lies, missing people, and even murder to cover up what they've been doing. Amanda, however, sees things differently and eventually helps Jason in his escape due to this overwhelming feeling of guilt. When Jason asks where his friend Ryan is, she says,
Sorry.
which implies Velocity may have killed him. In a conversation with Daniella, Jaye gives us some insight as to why he decided to take such drastic steps to find a reality where he could be with her. He tells her that almost getting hit by a car made him appreciate the things he once took for granted. This is a lie. As far as we know, Jaye never had a near-death experience with a car, he merely saw Jason have that experience. But that does beg the question, what major event caused Jaye to risk his life, go in the box, switch places with Jason so that he could steal his life? Remember that 15 years have passed since that decision that split these two realities apart. I'm referring, of course, to Daniella and whether or not she'd keep their child, Charlie. Did Jaye have a sort of epiphany moment where he realized he made the wrong decision, or was this something that had been building up over time? I also thought it was interesting that we see Jaye go into the cube wearing these coveralls, which appear to be the same coveralls we saw in episode 1 when he comes out of it. This would suggest the footage we're seeing here is the first time setting foot in Jason's reality. The scene where we're introduced to Leighton's grandfather screams of setup. We learn this man founded Velocity Labs 52 years ago and raised Leighton after the death of his parents. I would not be surprised if he somehow comes into play in future episodes. I could even see Leighton going into the box and traveling to a different reality where his parents never died or where he gets to see his grandfather again. With nowhere to run, Jason and Amanda escape into the box. Some of you may have wondered how Jason knew the passcode to get in. In episode 1, it's explained that the two of them always use their father's birthday reversed.
Know this. Father's birthday reversed.
While closing the box, Dawn gets her fingers chopped off. I could totally see this coming into play in future episodes if Jason needs to distinguish between multiple Dawns. Now, Amanda has brought with her multiple vials of Lavender Fairy, which could mean we see them travel to many different realities. The glowing container here suggests this is what Jaye had in episode 1. Upon waking up, they uncover hundreds of doors down a seemingly infinite hallway, but how will they know which one to step into? Either Amanda has some knowledge we don't, or they try out one of these random doors which may lead them to clues on how to get back to their original realities. We'll just have to wait until next week's episode to see what's really going on. But what did you think of episode 3? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.